Good day, everyone. This video will present and guide you on how to write chapters 1 and 2 of your research. Disclaimer: for each institution or university or school, we have a different thesis or research format. Basically, the difference may be the order in presenting each section. Some may have special instructions on how you can present each section, but I believe that the concept or thoughts in writing your thesis is just the same across organizations. It is important that you will be guided by your professor or advisor with regard to your institution's format. Now, for my EAC students, here's our thesis format. I already discussed this format to you in my thesis writing lecture. So I just included here again the format, so you will be guided as you write your thesis or as you encode your your research paper. So here, the thesis manuscript outline. We have here the preliminaries, including your title page, the approval sheet, certificate of originality, acknowledgement, abstract, table of contents, list of tables, list of figures, and list of appendices. So this will be done after you finish your final defense. So it will not be your task to do as of the semester, pero you have to accomplish this once na natapos na kayo in your final defense, and that would be on your second semester pa. So I just included here for your for your reference lang. And this is now the body of the thesis as what I have discussed sa inyo before. So the one I showed earlier are the preliminaries, and this one is the body of the thesis. And in this video, I'm going to discuss chapters 1 and 2 on how you're going to write these chapters and how you're going to accomplish or present each section for the specific or for the specified chapter. Again, this is the EAC format. For chapter 1, you have introduction. And under introduction, these are the sections na nakapaloob in chapter 1. Again, isa-isahin natin ito mamaya. And then for chapter 2, it's all about the literature review, and you have three sections here: the review of related literature, review of related studies, and your synthesis. So let us now start our discussion on how you can write your thesis or your research paper. So let's first start chapter 1, and it's all about the background of the study. So this is the first section. So chapter 1, the first section of the introduction is the background of the study. So let's start. Ay, by the way, in other university, ang kanilang format is andito yung pinaka-title ng chapter 1 is background of the study, and then yung pinakaunang section is introduction. Pero it's just the same, no? It's just a matter of labeling. So again, for EAC, chapter 1, the title is introduction, and then the first section is the background of the study. So let's talk about the background of the study. So this section leads the reader from a general research issue or problem to your specific area of research. It established the scope, context, and significance of the research being conducted by summarizing current understanding and background information about the topic. So, for the background of the study, we are presenting an overview of our study here. We convey to our readers significant background information in line with our research. So, it must be well written because sabi nga nila, you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. And then it must answer the following questions. A, what was I studying? B, why was this topic important to investigate? C, what did we know about this topic before I did this study? And then how will this study advance new knowledge or new ways of understanding? Make sure to present this section, the background of the study, well, and concise. Dapat ma-entice nyo ang inyong mga readers to further read your study. Kasi this is the first section. So it's like a make or break section if your readers will continue reading the rest of the chapters or the rest of the sections, or they will stop kapag ka hindi nila hindi sila na-intrigue or hindi sila na-entice sa introduction or sa background of the study mo pa lang. Now, you have to be guided by these questions as well, but aside from that, I will teach you on how you can present this section per paragraph logically. So, ito yung gagawin nyo in writing your background of the study. Okay, so ito siya. Ito yung gagamitin natin. This is what we call the TIOC approach in presenting your background. So again, for the background of the study, it contains several components divided into paragraphs, which includes the following. So again, this is what we call the TIOC approach. T stands for trends, I stands for issues, gaps, or conflicts, O is for objectives, and C is for contributions. Okay, so our paper format, again, the font is Times New Roman, the size is 12, justified. So, and then further notes in presenting the background of the study. First, you have to observe proper citation or referencing. So we have discussed this in our lecture, how you're going to properly cite or reference your resources or your materials. And then, second, only relevant or important materials or literature must be placed in this section that will entice your readers in the study, and you have to be selective. No, you only pick up those relevant and significant literature or related studies. And then use recent references. Sabi nga natin, 5 years backward as much as possible. So again, TIOC approach, this is how you're going to present the background of the study. So let's start with the first component, which is trends. So for the trends, so these are the updates or the trends of the variable or variables under study. So for example, nagpapakita tayo sa trends ng mga statistical data, such as World Health Organization 2002 reported 486,761,597 COVID-19 confirmed cases globally, including 6,142,735 deaths as of April 2022, and the statement goes on. Okay? That is one example. And then another example, Manansala 2008 found that there are 100,000 teachers under private institution, etc. Okay, so this is an example on how you can present the trends of your study. So you can present here statistical reports or data that you have gathered in your review of related literature. So take note, you move in writing the trends, you move from general trends, that is global trends, down to specific or to your local trends. Meaning, from general to specific tayo, and you have to contextualize your study. Okay? So, again, from international perspective, going to um, local perspective. So, dito, ang mga question natin would be, what is happening um, in the global arena, or what is happening globally? Next, another question is, what is happening naman in the local context? So your variables or key concepts must be reflected in this first paragraph, which is trends. And you may also define each variable here, no, in your first paragraph. Now, to have our example, so this one is an actual study. The title is The Protective Role of Resilience of COVID-19 Impact in the Quality of Life among nursing students in Pampanga. So this is from Malyari et al. 2002. So the topic is about the role of resilience on COVID-19 impact in the quality of life. And the respondents here are nursing students. And it is situated in Pampanga. So for our format, place here chapter 1, and then the heading is introduction. Again, chapter 1 heading is introduction. So this is Times New Roman 12, bold, and then center. And then the subheading for chapter 1, introduction, is first, you have the background of the study. Okay, background of the study, and then bold siya. So this is now how the first paragraph looks like. And this is showing to us the trends or updates of the topic or of the problem. So let us read, no? So just very quickly, in unprecedented and massive ways, the virulent transmission of coronavirus disease 2019 is affecting humanity and the world, leading to the upsurge of new issues and debates. And then we have now here the statistical data or reports that I'm referring a while back. So WHO, or World Health Organization, 2002 reported 486,761,597 COVID-19 confirmed cases globally. So this is, the authors presented the global perspective of COVID-19 in its background of the study sa kanyang first few sentences. And then including 6,142,735 deaths as of April 2022. And then, after presenting, so pwede pa kayo magdagdag dito in the global perspective or in the global literature or related studies, as long as relevant siya and it is significant. And then afterwards, after you presenting the general trend, you now proceed to the local context or to your contextualized study. Such as in this example, in the Philippines, the Department of Health 2002 recorded 3,678,598 individuals infected with COVID-19, etc. Okay, so pinakita dito yung global perspective and then down to the specific context, which is here in the Philippines. And then, take note, so ito yung ating mga references. So again, you must cite properly, such as itong mga naka-underlined, colored green na broken lines. And then, here, yung naka-orange na box naman, these are the variables, no? Pinakita dito in the first paragraph our major variables in the study, such as the quality of life, this is the dependent variable, and the independent variable, which is resilience. So again, in your first paragraph, ma-identify yung ating mga major variables. And again, you can define your major variables here para magkaroon agad ng ideas or like parang information si readers nyo about the major variables. So again, cite your references properly. So dito, the significant updates about the major variables were also indicated. So in this first paragraph. And then, this one is just a continuation of the previous slide or the continuation of the first paragraph. So, you may see here the target population in the given study, the nursing students. And you may also reflect on some problems or issues in this paragraph. For example, ito, nilagay niya rito, the temporary discontinuation of face-to-face learning, including hospital and community exposures, brings the issue of inadequacy in clinical skill development and application, the uncertainty of when, where, and how to do the compensatory training to solve insufficiency could stress nursing students. Moreover, during the pandemic and in the new normal era, mental health problems have become critical issues. So, pinakita yung mga relevant problems or issues in line with the topic dito sa ating unang paragraph. So, yan yung mga makikita natin at kung paano nyo isusulat ang inyong trends or the trend, which is our first paragraph. So, that is also the first component in TIOC approach. Okay, so let's now proceed to the second component, which is all about the issues or the gaps or conflicts. So this is now your second paragraph of the background of the study, which shows the conflicting findings that your study have specifically identified. Example natin, one study, for example, the author 2009 found that kung ano yung kanyang findings, and then while another study po 2020 revealed that. So in this example, we are showing differing findings from different authors. Okay? So this is one way on how we can state an issue or a gap in your research study. So yung mga issues and gaps natin it could be a blind spot. Pag sinabi natin blind spot, this is when there are conflicting findings on the same topic or variables from different authors. So that is blind spot. And then we also have a blank spot. That is when little is known about the topic or phenomenon. So you use transitional words or phrases to relate ideas or literature. Kagaya dito, ginamit yung while to relate yung magkaibang study ni Yi and Po. Then, ito pa yung other examples natin. So, example statement could be, limited literature has investigated the variables under study. Ibig sabihin, konti pa lang yung mga literature available. Or makikita nyo rin kadalasan yung statement na most are quantitative design yung ginamit. So, for example, konti lang yung qualitative, puro quantitative design. In nature, yung ginagamit na in previous researches. Another example, none of the previous research has examined, and then the statement goes on. Tapos, another statement, consequently, these factors need to be examined in more detail. So these are the common statements that are used to show the gap or an issue sa kanilang study. Now, for our example, this is in continuation sa una nating example, sa COVID-19, about the variables resilience and then the quality of life among nursing students in Pampanga. So we can see here, so again, this is the second paragraph, and this is the second component, which is about the issue. So here we can see the discussion of the authors of the issues and gaps identified in their research. So let's read very quickly. Concurrently, before the pandemic, some studies have revealed that resilience has a protective role on mental health problems, depression, and stress among nursing students. However, so meron tayong however, kaya lang according to Glasper et al., 2021, in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, the role of resilience on the impact on the quality of life among nursing students has not been yet extensively explored or investigated. So here, we have identified, the authors identified the gaps that they have identified. So, konti pa lang. The variables under investigation has not been um, yet extensively explored or investigated. So, that is one. Tapos sabi pa niya, furthermore, many accessible studies that look into the mental health of students during the pandemic were conducted among the students in higher education and general population. Even so, research is scarce. So another masasabi nating issue in terms of the variables under investigation. So scarce pa lang yung research conducted in line with the variables na pinag-aralan nila, specifically among nursing students in the Philippines. And then available research studies involving nursing students, on the other hand, focus on fear, levels of stress, not mainly on COVID-19 impact on quality of life relating to mental health. Okay, so nakita nyo in this example, again, sabi natin, you have to provide proper citation. So again, you must be supported, no? Yung mga kine-claim ninyo na gaps or issues or conflicting findings must be supported by a literature or related studies. So, make sure na we observe proper referencing or formatting in terms of your citation. Okay, so that is the second component, how we present the issue under the TIOC approach. So, nauna na yung trend, and then we also discuss the second component, issue. We now proceed to the third and fourth component, which is the objective of your study, and the fourth one is contribution. So, we usually combine these components no, into one paragraph since maikli lang naman sila isulat. Yung first component, that should be written in one paragraph. The second component, another paragraph, which is about the gap or the gaps. And then itong third and fourth component, kadalasan we combine this into one paragraph since short lang naman yung statements natin for this. So for the third component, this is the objective of your study. We place here a short statement of what your study would like to achieve, meaning you just state the purpose or the aim of your study. And then for our fourth component, the contribution, so dito nilalagay natin what will be the benefits or contributions of your study, such as in the nursing practice, education, or research. And in writing this component, you have to be brief and concise. Walang paligoy-ligoy, direct to the point kung ano yung contribution of your study. Okay, so this now is our example. So again, this is the third paragraph, which includes the third and fourth components from the TIOC approach that we are discussing. So dito ay hindi pala napalitan ito, no? Pero again, yes, this is the third paragraph. Pero again, this time we discussed we're done with the issues. Di ko lang napalitan, ano? This is the third paragraph discussing the objective and contributions of the study. So, basahin natin very shortly. Thus, the study was conducted to determine the influence of resilience on the impact of COVID-19 on the quality of life among nursing students. So, that is one objective. To determine the influence of resilience, this is the IV, on the impact of COVID-19 on the quality of life, this is the DV, among nursing students. So, that is one. And then another one, it may also be essential to examine whether COVID-19 impact among nursing students significantly vary in terms of demographic characteristics, the presence of COVID-19 confirmed case near the residence, and the existence of any medical condition that might increase the risk of acquiring severe illness from COVID-19 concerning resiliency. So meaning, aside from this one, the study also considered the demographic characteristics, and other components in their study. So those are the objectives of this study. And that is the third component, the objective. And then the fourth component is the expected contribution. Ito yung kanyang statement. The gathered and analyzed data will establish baseline information and support the university in the effective planning, decision-making, and intervention that build the resilience of nursing students. By the way, this is a finished study. Hindi lang to napalitan, pero this is already in past tense, no? And then, in your case, since you will be just writing your, um, it is just a proposal paper. So everything must be in present or in future tense. Again, you should write your paper in present or in future tense since you will be conducting pa lang your research work. So this is the third and fourth component or the third paragraph of your background of the study, and that is now our TIOC approach. Now, final notes ko lang dito to my advisees, in writing the background of the study, you have to limit the use of paragraph. Yung iba kasi, napakaraming paragraphs and wala namang direction yung paragraph. Okay, meaning talagang um, walang connection or talon ng talon yung ideas from one idea tatalon to another idea. So walang connection between the literature or yung pinapakita nila. So remember this, you have to limit the use of paragraph and present your background of the study the way I discussed to you the TIOC approach. Okay? And then, ito yung pinaka-summary niya. This is how it looks like kapag ka, zoom out yung background of this study. So, yung diniscuss kong example kanina, naka 3 pages lang siya. Okay? And it should be, si background of the study must be limited to 2 to 3 pages only. And then double space na siya. Okay? Times New Roman and then 12. That is our format. No? So again, limit your background of the study to 2 or 3 pages. Double space na. So ito yung itsura niya. So again, chapter 1. Introduction is the heading. Subheading is background of the study. And itong unang paragraph natin na pinakita ko kanina is about the trend. And then the second paragraph contains the second component of the TIOC approach, which is about the issue. And then the third paragraph includes the third and fourth component, which is the objective and the contributions of the study. Okay, so that's it. That is for the first section, which is the background of the study. Next, we are going to proceed with the statement of the problem, or SOP naman tayo. So I already discussed this as well in our previous lecture kung paano gumawa ng SOP. So this is just a fast or a quick recap. So pag sinabing SOP, it articulates the problem to be addressed and indicates the need for a study. So it can either be in interrogative or declarative form. And then Marshall and Rossman indicated here the different purposes of having an SOP. It is to describe the substantive focus of the research study, to frame it as a practical problem and develop its significance, to pose initial research questions, to forecast the literature to be discussed in the succeeding section, and to discuss the limitations of the study. So, ibig sabihin, in our SOP, nakikita natin yung variables, the major variables that will be investigated in our study. And then, the scope and delimitation is also being indicated in this section. And your SOP will serve as your compass, kumbaga, in conducting your research. It will guide and direct your study That's why it must be written correctly. So ito yung magsisilbing gabay and compass ninyo in conducting your research work. So dapat tama yung ating SOP. So it includes the following. You have first the general, another term is main or major problem. So we use these terms interchangeably. And then under the general, main, or major problem, we have the purpose statement. And in the purpose statement, we just provide here why the study is being done. So it is the researcher's summary of the overall goal of the study. So nilalagay natin sa purpose statement yung aim or yung objective ng study natin. So it is in declarative form, usually 1 to 2 clear sentences. And it must include the key variables, the population, and the research setting. So yun yung mga nakapaloob in the purpose statement which is reflected under the main problem or the major problem or the general problem. And then another component of SOP is the specific questions. So for this, we indicate here the specific query researchers want to answer in addressing the research problem. So kung si main or major problem is in declarative form, si specific questions natin, this one is in interrogative form na. Okay, naka-question mark na tayo dito. So to illustrate, here is our example. The topic is all about the impact of job burnout on job satisfaction among COVID ward nurses of Taguig Pateros District Hospital during COVID-19 pandemic. So this is our previous research study. Again, the variables here, the impact of the job burnout and job satisfaction. So here is our statement of the problem. So this study, so again, pag sinabing statement of the problem, the first sentence is our general, main, or major problem. And this is written in purpose statement. So ito yung ating purpose statement for our main or major problem. So this study aims to investigate the influence of job burnout on job satisfaction among COVID ward nurses of Taguig Pateros District Hospital during the COVID-19 pandemic. So dito, we have already seen the major variables, which is the job burnout and job satisfaction. And then we have the respondents, which are the nurses. And in what location? In Taguig Pateros District Hospital. And the time or when the study was conducted during the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is how we create our purpose statement. And then after the purpose statement or the main or major problem na section, we proceed with the specific questions, right? So for the specific questions, ito yung nilalagay natin kadalasan. Specifically, it will answer the following questions. Pero again, tapos na yung study na to. Kaya dapat naka-past tense na. Di lang siguro napalitan. Pero in your case, since again, proposal pa lang, dapat naka-future tense kayo. Okay? So, number 1, this is the first SOP. What is the level of job burnout of the respondents in terms of letter A, disengagement. So, pinapakita yung major variable and the sub-variables. No? A, disengagement. B, exhaustion. And then SOP number 2, what is the level of job satisfaction of the respondents in terms of intrinsic and extrinsic. Number 3, does the level of job burnout significantly influence their job satisfaction? And then number 4, what wellness intervention program can be developed in the study? So these are the specific questions of this topic. And that is how you formulate your SOP. Okay, so we now proceed to our format. Okay, our SOP formatting. So we use the sample study na nurses, hardiness, and self-esteem and its relation on their positive health practices. Again, this is the topic of the study. Nurses, hardiness, and self-esteem. Tapos its relation on their positive health practices. So we have 3 variables here: hardiness, self-esteem, and the positive health practices of the nurses, which is our or respondent. Okay, so how do we format our SOP? So you write here, naka-bold statement of the problem. Again, this is the section after the background of the study. So tuloy-tuloy lang siya. So again, this one, the first sentence of the SOP is your purpose statement, or what we call the general problem in declarative form. And then itong section na to, from here up to the last, this is now our specific questions or our specific problems in interrogative form. Naka-question mark tayo. So this is how you're going to format your SOP. Okay, so naka-future tense since proposal pa lang yung study nyo. So in this example, ito yung kanyang purpose statement or general problem. The aim of the study was to identify the levels of hardiness and self-esteem and their relationship on the positive health practices of staff nurses in private hospitals in Bulacan, Philippines. So naka-past tense na to kasi tapos na. Pero in your case, again, future tense. So nakita natin yung aim or goal of the study here, the major variables, and the respondents. So that is the general problem or the purpose statement in declarative form. And then ito na yung ating mga specific questions for the SOP. So the study sought to answer the following specific questions. So dahil nga tapos na, sought na siya sa inyo, the study will seek answer to the following specific questions since gagawin nyo pa lang. So number one, ano yung pinaka first SOP, first specific question, and then kung merong sub-variables, ilalagay nyo. So 1, 1.1, kung may sub-variable, 1.2, and then 1.3, tapos question mark sa dulo. And then second question, what are the nurses' level of self-esteem? Third question, what are the positive health practices among nurses in terms of, so meron na ulit tayong sub-variables for the third question. And this is how you, yung numbering. So 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, hanggang kung ilan yung sub-variable, tapos question mark sa dulo. And then fourth, does the level of hardiness significantly relate to the quality of nurses' positive health practices? And then does self-esteem relate significantly to the quality of health practices of the nurses? So this is how, again, we create our SOP. So this is our format. Please follow this format properly. So that is the second section after the background of the study. So the statement of the problem. So next section, still under chapter 1 is a theoretical framework naman. Okay, so we also discussed this already in our NR1 lecture. So pag sinabing framework, the overall conceptual underpinnings of a study, or this is your conceptual rationale. So that is your framework. So you have to make clear of your conceptual definition of your key variables and the operational definition to provide information accurately and clearly about your study's framework. Now we have two types of research framework. It could either be theoretical framework and conceptual framework. And in your thesis paper, nilalagay natin pareho, theoretical and conceptual framework. So, pag sinabing theoretical framework, alam na natin na it is a study, we use theoretical framework if our study is based on theory. So, theoretical framework is formulated from existing theories and serves as the foundation of the study. So, ginagamit natin yung mga existing theories na connected or relevant to our present study. So, you can adapt the original model used by the cited theories. You have to cite your authors or your theories kung ano man yung napili ninyong theory. And then the research can modify the variables of the original framework to better suit the study, provided that the whole theory is utilized. Okay? So, pwedeng mag-modify kayo based on contextualize mo in your study, no? That is important. the theory that you will be selecting is in line with your study, and it may be contextualized in your study as well. And definitely yung gagamitin nyo, it should you have to use the whole theory na napili ninyo. Okay, and then ito pa, let's dig deeper about the theoretical framework. So we use here the theories that are partially or fully relevant to the present study and are discussed to provide a basis for the variables being tested. So again, ito kasi ay magiging basis natin sa ating variables, no? And then in the theories na mapipili nyo, you may present more than one theory if necessary. So 3 theories may be enough. Okay? So again, 3 theories that may be enough, or that is somehow our maximum na pwede nyong gamitin for your presentation of the theories. And then, a theoretical framework serves as the basis of the research. It points out through its cited theories which specific variables will be the focus of the study. So it also prefaces the new knowledge introduced in the research by validating or challenging theoretical assumptions. Thus, writing a sound theoretical framework provides the readers a better understanding of the research study. So remember that we use the assumptions of a theory relevant to our study to guide our hypothesis statement. Diba? Dito tayo nagbe-base in creating our hypothesis statement. So we use the assumptions or propositions of the theories to guide us in our hypothesis. So, madidiscuss natin yung hypothesis section later on. No? Again, you choose here one theory. The maximum is 3 theories na relevant or in line with your present study. So, dapat yung theory na pipiliin nyo ay nagdi-discuss sa mga variables na meron kayo. So the University of South California 2016 provides the following strategies in formulating the theoretical framework. So according to the University of South California, this is how we create or conduct our theoretical framework. So first, you examine your thesis title and research problem. So the research problem should be well-founded since it serves as the foundation of the theoretical framework. Ibig sabihin yung title at yung SOP mo ang unang titignan natin for your theoretical framework. You refer back to your approved title and your SOP. Second, brainstorm about what is considered as the key variables in the research. So the factors that are presumed to have significant bearing on the results of the study should be identified. So you must know here your major variables, like if you have independent and the dependent variable. And then number 3, review related literature and studies. So the basis of the research should be supported by relevant literature and studies from authors who had conducted an extensive research on the topic. Ibig sabihin, you must be knowledgeable enough with your key variables by conducting literature review. So, dapat nakapagbasa-basa ka na at this point, no? Ng mga journals, ng mga existing related studies and literature. And then number 4, list the constructs and variables. So, you already know what is a construct and what is a variable. So, this should be identified para makapag-create ka ng framework of your study. Kapag alam mo na ang iyong constructs and variables, the next is you review the key theories now. So, the theories that best explain the relationships between the key variables in the study should be identified. So, you will search probably the internet or the books that you have used in your previous level under the theoretical foundations. So you can use that to find relevant theories in your study. So magbabasa-basa ka, magre-research ka, or magse-search ka, and then um, you will select after your readings, after your thorough readings about the theories, mamimili ka na ngayon ng relevant to your study. So, dapat maalam ka when it comes to theories in nursing or even in other fields since nag-theoretical foundation naman na kayo. So, again, kung ano yung best theory or theories, so at least three, or I mean, the maximum is three that will fit in your study, yun yung gagamitin aligned with your variables or topic. And then the final step is discuss the assumptions or propositions. So the relevance of the cited theories of the research should be established to effectively support the framework of the study. So alam naman natin that in every theory, meron niyang mga assumptions or propositions. So you only select those assumptions relevant to your study. Yung mga applicable lang sa study mo, yung assumptions na ilalagay mo in your paper. Kasi napakahaba, di ba? Marami tayong mga statements sa mga theories na meron tayo. So you only select the relevant and significant to your study. And then ito ay additional information. In the discussion of relevant theories, the following parts are mentioned. These are key components in presenting your theoretical framework. So number one, you have to state there the name or the names of the authors since kung more than two or kung hanggang tatlo yung theories na ipe-present nyo, the title of their theories. Third is the theoretical statement or principles. Fourth, explanation of the theoretical statements and relationship of the theory to the present study. And again, lahat to for each theory dapat maipakita nyo. Okay? So let's have an example. So this one is a study correlates of English performance of second year students in selected high school congressional district 2 Nueva Ecija. So I will not dig deeper into this example. Ang point lang natin dito is that in this given study or example, pinakita niya itong na-mention natin kanina. Okay, itong lima na to is stipulated in this example. Though wala tayong specific name of the authors for the theory of social interactionism, yung other probably baka hindi nakita yung pinaka-original author of this. Pero he had a citation. Okay? Pero again, ito yung mga mahalaga na may pakita natin in our theoretical framework. So you indicate here the title, the theory title, which is social interactionism. And then what is the statement of that theory? What the theory is all about. So ito yun na ipakita dito in this statement. And then afterwards, we have here the theory explanation. So in these paragraphs, in these sentences, pinakita yung theory explanation. And then finally, the relationship of this theory, si social interaction, to the present study is also indicated in this example. So again, yung lima kanina, this one, yung lima na to, should be reflected in your theory. So for each theory, dapat meron tayong may pakita natin yung limang aspects na yan. Okay, so this one is another actual study. Ito yung another way, our format na gagamitin natin. So this one, the title of the study is the psychological impact and coping strategies among public school teachers in schools division of Bulacan during coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic, basis for wellness intervention program development. So, ito yung mga pwede nyong ilagay na opening statement for the theoretical framework. By the way, nakalagay dito, no? Saan ba? Hindi kasi napakita. Ayan, nakalagay dyan yung ating subheading again, theoretical framework. So dito yan, di lang naipakita. May subheading dito na theoretical framework. Okay? Now, again, as opening statement, ito yung mga pwede nyong ilagay. The present study draws theoretical propositions from the following studies. Tapos, tatlo kasi yung theories na nakuha niya dito. So, in-enumerate niya yun. Okay? So, again, you can use this as your opening statement for your theoretical framework. The study draws theoretical propositions from the following. Kung i-enumerate nyo yung tatlo na yan or yung mga theories na nakuha nyo. Kung individual, pwede nyo namang sabihin, the study draws theoretical proposition from, and then the name of the authors. For example, from Freud, and then the title of the theory, Psychoanalytic Theory, which states that kung ano yung statement of the theory, what the theory is all about, and then further explain the assumptions. Tapos after explaining the assumptions, you can explain the relationship of the chosen theory to the present study. Okay? Now, in this case, in our example, so we have three theories here na aligned sa present study. Okay? So again, psychological impact, tsaka coping strategies among public school teachers during the COVID-19 pandemic. So, ang unang theory na ginamit is the psychoanalytic theory. So, in this case, this is the title and you have here the author. So, again, ito yung mga ipapakita natin in our theoretical framework. Title of the theory, then the author. And then yung naka-underline na to, this is the theoretical statement. Okay, this is the description of the theory. And then after the description, di ba, you have the assumptions of the theory na relevant to your study. And ito yung kanyang assumption. Okay? And then the last thing that you have to indicate is the relation of this theory to your present study. So, ang ginawa dito, ito yung kanyang nagkaroon siya ng synthesis, no? Since tatlo yung ginamit na theories. One, psychoanalytic, cognitive model, tapos coping, defense, and fragmentation model. Tatlo yan. So, pwedeng ganito, naka-bold, naka-indent, tapos bold, and then, ang pinakita mo na is the first theory. And then, yung second theory, ganito rin yung gagawin. So, bold, and then the name of the author, statement of the propositions of the theory, tapos yung assumptions. And then yung third theory, di ko lang kasi na-add dito. No? And then the third theory is the coping, defense, and fragmentation model. So, same format. Name of the theory, the name of the author, the statement of the theory, and the proposition. Now, after you discuss all those three theories, meron ka ngayong isang paragraph dito showing the synthesis or the relation of each theory to your present study. Okay? So, una munang diniscuss dito again are the three theories. Pinakita mo na yung relevant information, propositions, and statements for each. And then after those discussion, yung last paragraph of the theoretical framework is about the the relation of those theories to the present or to the existing study. Okay, so in this case, ito yung si psychoanalytic theory, ito yung kanina. Ayan. So, andito yung kanyang relation to the present study. Sabi dito, psychoanalytic theory will help in determining the teacher's behaviors and feelings during this crisis that is heavily influenced by their unconscious motives or past experiences and their personality, which is an interaction of id, ego, and superego. On the other hand, si cognitive model, ito naman yung relation ng theory na to in this present study. And then finally, Hans model of coping, defense, and fragmentation. Tapos ito yung statement of the relation of the theory to the present study. So you may utilize this in presenting your theoretical framework. So pwedeng ganito yung format nyo. Okay, pero pwede rin yung individual na naglalaman ng ganito. O pwedeng ganito, no? Individual theory. For example, ito nga si social interactionism theory. And then, you have here the statement, explanation, tapos the relation of that theory to the present study. Tapos, you move on to the next theory. Tapos, pakita mo ulit yung mga components natin. And then, hanggang sa maka-arrive ka sa pangatlong theory mo, showing again the different components. Again, a maximum is 3 theories na relevant or in line with your study. So that is how you can present your theoretical framework. So this one, meron pang isang example, this one, yung topic kanina na nurses' hardiness and self-esteem and its relation on their positive health practices. Di ko na lang ito masyadong i-elaborate since okay naman na yung discussion natin kanina about the theoretical framework. So you can also have this as your example. Pero again, yung kaninang binigay natin about si psychoanalytic theory, okay na yon on presenting your theoretical framework. So that is the another section, ano, theoretical framework. Now, after the theoretical framework, we have conceptual framework. Okay? So, magpapakita ka rin ng conceptual framework in the succeeding section after you present your theoretical framework. So again, pag sinabing conceptual, we use this if the study has its roots in a specified conceptual model. So meaning, yung conceptual framework mo, you have a specified model. And most of the time, as a researcher, you contextualize your conceptual model based on your study. So you derive from a combination of theories or parts of theories. And um, we usually use or write this section to easily visualize the major variables of the study and identify their relationships. So ginagawa natin to, or we write this conceptual framework para mas madali nating makita yung different variables, major variables in the study, and to identify the cause and effect relation or kung association ba yung pinag-aaralan in the study. And then we use our contextualized model or figure kapag conceptual framework. So this is our example. So this is the topic kanina, yung psychological impact and coping strategies among public school teachers in Schools Division of Bulacan during COVID-19 pandemic. So again, another sub-heading here, conceptual framework. And then, ayan, this is an example statement on how you can present your conceptual framework. And again, we use this format, okay? So example, figure 1 presents the conceptual framework of the study. So the model is consisted of independent variable. Ito yung independent variable natin, which is psychological impact, which composed of subscales. So ito yung subscales or sub-variables natin under psychological impact. One is intrusion, second is avoidance, third is hyperarousal. And then the dependent variable is coping strategies. Asan na siya? Dependent variable is teacher's coping strategies, which is composed of 14 factors or 14 sub-variables. So namely acceptance hanggang sa venting, which is number 14. And then, sabi pa, the relationship between psychological impact and coping strategies will be described in this study. So, ito yung relationship. So, association between the IV and the DV. And then, kapag ka may figure tayo, nilalagyan natin ng um, kumbaga like a label. So figure 1 and then dot conceptual model of the study. So again, this is how you're going to present your conceptual framework as well. Okay? Ganito rin siya. So do not complicate your conceptual model. The simple, the better. And then another example, ito yung nurses' hardiness and self-esteem and its relation on their positive health practices. So a short statement about the framework, the conceptual framework. Tapos yung uli kanina, figure 1 presents the conceptual framework of the study. The model was consisted of independent variables. So again, naka-past tense to kasi tapos na yung study. Sa inyo, again, is future tense. So yan, pinakita lang yung mga independent variable and the dependent variable. So sabi pa dito, the terms independent variable and dependent variable are used to indicate the direction of influence rather than a causal link. So meaning we are after the association of or the association between variables. So ito yung conceptual model of the study. So we have two independent variables, si hardiness at self-esteem. Si hardiness, meron tayong tatlong subscales. And then for the dependent variable, we have one only, positive health practices. And then we have 6 subscales. So again, make your conceptual model a simple one. Ngayon, baka lang may makita kayo na some studies use paradigm of the study as their label for this. No, it's just the same. So it's a diagrammatic presentation of the study used to visually summarize the whole study. So commonly kasi kapag ganito, they use the IPO or the input process output model. So you can also use the same, pero again, ang magiging label nyo is ganito pa rin. We use this format, conceptual framework. So instead of showing this one, si IV and si DV, you can show the IPO, the input process output model of your study. Okay? So, ito yung example niya. So, figure 1 to, for example, in your case, figure 1, pero in this example, figure 10.1, the paradigm for entrepreneurs' roles towards improved work performance. So, pag sinabing input, these are the variables that causes the problem, the phenomenon, or information. Meaning, ito yung mga variables that are the important things that you have to indicate or you input. Ito yung mga um, ito yung ating mga SOPs that you have identified. And then process, the method by which the variables are collected and synthesized. How you're going to plan your data collection, and then the statistical and scientific treatment na gagamitin. And then the output, this is the problem, phenomenon, or transformation, or the outcome of the variables, such as in this case, improved role of entrepreneurs, higher returns, better quality of services. So again, you may also utilize this one, input, process, output. If this one, if hindi applicable sa inyo yung previous, etong example na binigay ko. Okay, pero again, we use the term conceptual framework. Tapos ilalagay nyo rito figure 1, the IPO of what is your study all about. Okay? So yun, that's another way on how you can present your conceptual framework using the IPO model, input, process, output. Okay, so we're done with the theoretical framework and conceptual framework. The next section is the hypothesis of the study. So for the hypothesis of the study, this is a statement of the predicted relationship between two or more variables. And according to Niswayadom in 2008, it's a research study. A research study may have one or several hypotheses depending on your um, research. So it should always be written before the study begins and not changed after the study results are examined. So ginagawa naman talaga natin siya during, during our proposal. Ini-indicate na natin our hypothesis. So again, ang kailangan natin, two or more variables for you to have your hypothesis of the study. So we have common types, and you already know this. First is research hypothesis, or H sub 1, also known as alternative, scientific, substantive, or theoretical hypothesis. So this is the expected relationship between variables, and readers can determine exactly what the researcher expects to find when analyzing data. Example, the prediction is that variables A and B are related. Or another example, there is a relationship between sleep and wound healing. So kapag research hypothesis, laging meron tayong relationship. Okay, there is always a significant relationship between the two variables, two or more variables. On the other hand, null hypothesis, or H sub 0, also known as statistical hypothesis, it predicts that no relationship exists between variables, and it is the null hypothesis that is subjected to statistical analysis. So yung null hypothesis, kabaligtaran to ng alternative or research hypothesis natin. Ito naman yung laging no relationship exists between variables. So the logic of statistical inference is that they require hypotheses to be expressed such that no relationship is expected. Example natin, the only other possible outcome is that variables A and B are not related. So laging no relationship or not related. So there is no relationship between sleep and wound healing as our another example. Now for our format, utilizing the previous topic. So nurses' hardiness and self-esteem and its relation on their positive health practices. So hypothesis of the study, this is our label or our subheading. And then H sub 0, ilalagay mo dyan. And this will serve as our null hypothesis. So usually kasi in most university, they use the null hypothesis in their hypothesis statement. So in this case, since this is our example, this is our hypothesis statement. Nurses' hardiness and self-esteem have no significant relationship on their positive health practices. So this is a null hypothesis. Okay, so no significant relationship. So another example, in other university, pinapakita nila in their format, they show the alternative and the null hypothesis. So again, this sample naman is a topic kanina pa rin, psychological impact and coping strategies among public school teachers during the COVID-19 pandemic. So H sub 1, this is our alternative. Sabi rito, there is a significant relationship between psychological impact and coping strategies during the COVID-19 pandemic among public school teachers. Tignan nyo, you have to be guided. Guys, sabi natin, your hypothesis statement must be in line or congruent with your SOP and with the title of your study. So laging ganon, no? So your title, your SOP, and then this time your hypothesis must be congruent. So ganon din naman, all sections of your research paper must be in congruence with all the variables indicated in your study. So the null hypothesis, there is no significant relationship between the psychological impact and coping strategies during the COVID-19 pandemic among public school teachers. Now, for our agreement, you use this one, no? You use this format. Ipakita nyo na si alternative and si null hypothesis in your hypothesis of the study. Okay, again, in your hypothesis of the study, pakita nyo na si alternative, H1, and then null hypothesis, just like in this example. Okay, you follow this example. So I hope we are clear with that. By the way, ang nagiging guide natin in our hypothesis statement is our theoretical framework, the propositions that we indicated or that we got from the relevant theories na meron tayo. So siya yung nagiging guide natin. And then, so that concludes our hypothesis section. Next is the significance of the study. So how do you write the significance of your study? So in this section, you're expected to write the importance of your study. So you should specify the role of your study to different groups of people. So this lesson, so this one, the significance of the study, allows the or informs the reader on how the study will contribute to the well-being of a person or progress of a group or society in general. So usually we use here group of people or population in our significance of the study. For example, your study is about malnutrition of children in a specific barangay. So the findings can benefit first and foremost the following. Una-una, definitely the malnourished children themselves and their families. Another beneficiary, the policymakers like CDOH, Department of Education, leaders of both local and national government. So iniisip natin in the significance of the study, sino yung group of people that would benefit our study. And then we stipulate the specific reasons on how they are going to benefit from the study. So guidelines natin in writing your significance, the result of your study should benefit certain groups of people. And then you write the significance of the study in paragraph form, and you limit the number of paragraphs depending on the number of beneficiaries of your study. And here's our format. So another label here, subheading natin, significance of the study. And then you will have an opening statement, no? Have an opening statement. Just a one sentence lang as an opening for your significance of the study. So most of the time, we just restate here the purpose of the study. So again, after the subheading, you will have an opening statement wherein you have to restate the aim of your study. I-paraphrase mo naman para iba-iba yung nababasa. No, i-paraphrase mo yung aim of your study. And then afterwards, you place here, the study is deemed to benefit the following. This is just an example. You can paraphrase this sentence. And then you now have here the different groups of people that would benefit your study. So beneficiary 1, the first group of beneficiary, indented siya and then bold. Tapos tuldok. No, beneficiary 1. For example, nursing students. So nursing students, tapos tuldok. And then state here why and how would they benefit from the findings of your study. At least 2 to 3 clear sentences. You have to be clear and concise. And then, beneficiary 2. So, yung second group na mag-benefit in your study. For example, hospital nurses. Okay? So, indented bold. And then, same. You state here why and how would they benefit from the findings of the study. At least 2 to 3 sentences. Group number 3, another beneficiary. So another example might be like hospital administrators. Okay, so ayun, just the same. So in our previous example, ito yung kanyang significance of the study. The topic is the nurses' hardiness and self-esteem and its relations on their positive health practices. So significance of the study, this study sought to identify nurses' hardiness and self-esteem and its relationship on their positive health practices. So, nirestate lang yung aim of the study. And then the study is deemed to benefit the following. Ito na yung mga beneficiaries natin. Okay, so again, future tense kayo since you will just have your proposal. So, nurses, ayan yung proper format, please take note. And this is how you're going to format your paper as well. So identify here what are the specific benefits that they will get from the results of your study. So be concise, be specific, do not use flowery words, no? Be direct to the point and straightforward. So nurses, and then you have patients, hospital institutions or nursing administration, and then student nurses, nursing education, tapos future researcher. It depends sa inyo, no? Kung sino yung mga beneficiaries nyo talaga. Only those beneficiaries, the direct group of people that will benefit your study. Okay? Be specific, straightforward. Kung di naman significant yung benefits sa group of people na to, wag nyo nang i-include. So at least 4 tayo dito. Again, you include at least 4 groups of people that will benefit in your study. At least 4. Kadalasan yung huli natin, future researcher. So sila yung last beneficiaries. And then again, state the reasons why, ano yung mga specific benefits that they will get from the findings of your study. And then sometimes, ito sa mga master's students, sometimes we only use 3 areas as our beneficiaries in our study. Those are in the nursing practice, nursing education, and nursing research. So yun lang ilalagay natin. Pero again, in your case, since undergrad to, you identify here the group of people, no? Just like in this example. So that is for the significance of the study. The next section is the scope and delimitation. So S&D tayo. Again, this is another section still under chapter 1. So scope and delimitation of the study, it sets boundaries and parameters of the problem inquiry, and it narrows down the scope of the inquiry. So when you say scope, this is our definition. It is the domain of your research. What is in the domain and what is not. So ibig sabihin ng scope, ito yung coverage of your study. Okay, for example, you're studying the ill effects of bullying. So the scope could include face-to-face bullying and cyberbullying in first year to second year nursing students. So meaning, dilalagay natin specifically kung sino yung mga kukunin natin for example, yung magiging cover ng ating study including the respondents. So dito ang scope niya, yung mga nag-face-to-face yung may face-to-face bullying and cyberbullying. So ito yung 2 types na na-include niya. Tapos, first year, tsaka nursing students lang. So that is the scope. And then when you say delimitation, it refers to boundaries of the research study arising from the research decision of what to exclude. Ibig sabihin ng delimitation natin, parang sineset aside na natin kung sino yung mga kasama at yung mga hindi makakasama in your study. Okay? We tend to exclude kung sino yung mga not included. Yun na nga, yung excluded in your study. Okay? So, example, a study that includes only the first year and second year nursing students who experience bullying. So, pagka nilagay natin first year and second year nursing students, we excluded, okay, already the third year and fourth year nursing students. So, we have delimited our study to first year and second year nursing students only. Okay, so excluded na, out na, yung third year and fourth year. Another example, this study covers only those families in Barangay San Jose, Pasig City, benefited by the government's 4Ps. So, ibig sabihin, excluded na yung mga hindi taga Barangay San Jose, Pasig City, and excluded na rin kung hindi ka member ng 4Ps. So, that's how you delimit, the difference between scope and delimitation. Okay, and then in presenting your S&D, so the following are the things that you can write on your S&D section. So dito, we use the 5 W's and 1 H in our scope and delimitation. So first, we include the range of topics or the variables of your research. And this is the what. Yung unang W natin is what. the range of topics or your variables. Second W is the why. Why is there a need to conduct the study? Meaning you just state here your aim or the goal of the study. You may also state the design or method to be used and then justify its appropriateness. Why that design or method is appropriate in your current study. So that is the second W. Third W, the time frame of the study, which is when. Fourth W is who, meaning you include your sample size. Kung meron kang inclusion and exclusion criteria, you have to include that. And then five, the setting or the locale of the study. And that is the fifth W, that is where. And then yung 1H natin, H is how, meaning the data collection procedure or the instruments that you intend to use. And this is now our format, okay, for our scope and delimitation. So this is from our previous example. Student hardiness and self-esteem and its relation under positive health practice. This is also a quantitative study pa rin to, no? Quanti pa din siya. So again, another subheading, which is scope and delimitation of the study. So you present here, you state here the 5 W's and 1 H. So in this case, ito yung what. So you just state here, what are the variables? The study focused on the hardiness and self-esteem of nurses and its relation under positive health practices. And then yung why is the next, meaning what is the goal of the study. So ayan, diniscuss lang natin yung goal of the study, and then, so that is the second W. To continue, again, under scope and delimitation pa rin, who will be the respondents? All nurses who were employed in all secondary hospitals in the city of Malolos, Bulacan. So you have here the who, and this is the where, saan. Secondary hospitals in the city, Malolos, Bulacan. And then when the study is conducted, it commenced last third week of September 2015 until second week of October 2015. And again, since this is just a proposal sa inyo, it should be in future tense. Okay, future tense, scope, and delimitation. And then ito yung kanyang how. For the how the data collection procedure will be done, and then what are the instruments to be used. So ito yung kanyang statement. So standardized questionnaires were administered for the data gathering process. So ito yung title ng first questionnaire to measure hardiness. Second questionnaire is Rosenberg self-esteem scale that measures the self-esteem variable, and personal lifestyle questionnaire that measures the positive health practices. So again, you include here the title of the instrument that you will be using for each variable. And then kung meron pa kayong additional information on how you're going to gather the data, you just include here under the how and under the scope and delimitation. So again, that is how you're going to write your S&D or scope and delimitation. You have to include the 5 W's and 1 H. What, when, where, why, when, and then how. And then I have included here another example. This one is a qualitative study, and this is the title. So I will not elaborate on this. I will just show it to you. Ayan, I'll just flash that in my PowerPoint slide. So that is just another example. Again, that is for the scope and delimitation. And finally, the last section of chapter 1 is the definition of terms. So for the definition of terms, we have discussed this also in our Nursing Research 1 lecture, right? About the variables. So defining important terms is essential to ensure a common understanding of key concepts and terminology para we are on the same page when we are going to talk about the variables of your study. Hindi magkakaiba yung ating pinag-uusapan na definition of the variables. That's why we have this definition of terms. So, in general, important terms only need to be defined in two cases. A, when the term is not widely known or understood. Letter B, when the term has specific or unique meaning in the context of the study. Now, in your paper, you define only the key terms. So, these include your variables and sub-variables, if ever you have sub-variable. Now, remember, in writing the definition of terms in research, terms can be defined as either conceptual, also known as theoretical, and then you also have operational. So kapag conceptual or theoretical definition of terms, you present the abstract or theoretical meaning of the concepts being studied based on theoretical formulations. So gumagamit ka or nanghihiram ka ng definition from a certain theorist or sa mga theories na cite mo or in your theoretical framework. Okay, so again, conceptual or theoretical framework, you use the definition from the theory that you have used. So it permits to assess the validity of the definition. And remember, in doing so, you have to observe proper citation. Kung kanina mo binarrow yung theory na yon. On the other hand, the operational definition specifies the operations that researchers must perform to collect the required information. It permits the concept to be measured naman. So dito, you may identify the title of instrument or tool. Pagka operational definition, your intention on how you are going to measure the variable of that study. So, yung mga dinedefine lang din natin under operational, yung mga major variables natin. Okay? Nilalagay natin yung title of the instrument. And most of the time, sinasama rin natin kung sino yung author of that instrument. So, this is how you can measure that variable. So, that is operational definition. So, those are the types. These are the types of definition of terms. So another ano lang to, information you already have seen this already in my previous discussion. So for example, the term is postpartum depression. Under conceptual definition, ito siya, a cognitive impairment conceptually defined as a mother, and it goes on. Again, meron tayong citation. And then, how are you going to operationalize, for example, the postpartum depression? You use postpartum depression screening scale. So, most of the time, kung ano yung nasa conceptual definition mo, yun din yung nilalagyan mo ng operational definition. Kasi we use the major variables for both conceptual and operational. So, definitely, kung ano yung mag-reflect in your conceptual, yun din yung nasa operational definition. And then this is just another example. Health risk behavior is the concept. This is the theoretical definition, the operational definition, and the source. Okay, ito example, spiritual care. So the theoretical definition or the conceptual definition is this one. And how are you going to measure or operationalize the term? Using the score on the spiritual care practice questionnaire. So this is the title of the instrument. And this is the source. Remember guys, now you only use the kung ano yung align in your study, kung ano yung relevant and applicable in your study, yun yung ilalagay mong operational and conceptual definition. Okay? Kung ano yung applicable and contextualize in your study, yun yung gagamitin mo. And this is now our format, another subheading, definition of terms. So usually, ito yung nilalagay natin for our opening statement under the definition of terms. The following terms are conceptually and operationally defined to gain a better understanding of the study. So again, since i-define mo, major variable yan, you have to define the major variable both conceptually and operationally. So you have to show that you have to indicate here na conceptual at saka operational definition yung pagkaka-define sa kanya. Okay? Or pwede rin namang conceptual, lagyan mo na lang ng slash, operationally defined. Kasi sometimes, hindi natin in-operationalize na or binibigyan ng operational definition. Like for example, yung mga demographic profiles such as age, gender, so wala naman ng operational definition. Pero again, most of the time, we both operationalize and then define conceptually yung terms. So in this case, naka-bold and then tuldok ulit, indented, bold, and then period yung ating mga terms. So the first one, psychological impact. And then this is defined as the effect caused by environmental and or biological factors on individual social and or psychological aspects. And these are the authors or the word, the definition is borrowed. So again, meron tayong citation. Proper citation must be observed for conceptual definition. So alam mo ng conceptual siya kasi binarrow siya and it was defined conceptually. And then, alam mo na operational definition yung kasunod kasi this is the title of the instrument. How this term will be measured or operationalized. Sabi dito, this study will be measured using the standardized instrument. Tapos, and-explain pa further what is this instrument is. So, it is a 22-item self-administered questionnaire designed to measure the magnitude of symptomatic response. So, meaning, ilagay mo lang kung ano yung mini-measure nung tool na nilagay mo. Okay, what is the purpose of the tool and what does it measure? Tapos, kung may subscale tayo, such as in this example, you have to include also intrusion. This is a subscale na included a sub-variable. So, you have to define that as well. Okay, so ito yung definition niya. Okay, another term is coping strategies. So, ganun pa rin, indented, bold, period. And then the conceptual definition, this one is from Taylor. And then operational definition, it use brief coping orientation to problems experienced or brief cope. Tapos, kung may subscale or sub-variable, you just include that here and then you define those variables or sub-variables. So that is now the definition of terms under chapter 1. And then, ngayon pa lang tayo magsa-chapter 2. So this is now the literature review. So we're done with chapter 1. So we're done with chapter 1, which is introduction, background of the study, SOP. Yung objectives of the study, ginagamit lang siya for experimental research, no? Kung may mag-experimental sa inyo, this is the time na you use the objectives of the study. Pero most of you naman are just non-experimental. So, ayan, na-discuss ko naman na yung mga important. No? So, yung objectives of the study, this is similar to our goal or to the aim of the study. So, hiniwalay lang siya for experimental research. So, theoretical, hypothesis, significance, S&D, tsaka definition. So, we're all done with that for the chapter 1. We now proceed to the last part of this discussion, which is chapter 2, literature review. So, in here, we have 3 main sections: review of related literature, review of related studies, and synthesis. Okay, so you already know this definition. RRL is a detailed review of existing literature related to the topic of a thesis or dissertation, meaning you have searched, you have read the available materials related to your topic. So what are the purposes of doing RRL? So define and limit a problem, place your study in perspective, avoid unintentional replication of previous studies. Guys, remember, okay lang mag-replicate. Ang bawal ay unintentional replication. Ibig sabihin nito, hindi ka nagbasa ng RRL, kaya hindi mo nakitang replicated lang pala yung ginagawa mong study. If you are going to replicate, it must be intentional, and you should have read the RRL comprehensively. 4. Select methods and measures and relate findings to previous knowledge and suggest areas for further research. So those are the purposes why you need to conduct RRL. Okay, characteristics of good lit review. So, materials must be as recent as possible. So, yung mga gagamitin yung references must be published 5 years backward. So, if this year is 2022, 5 years backward, that is 2017. So, yung mga na-publish na papers or literature or related studies, 2017 above, yun yung mga priority nyo. Yun yung mga gagamitin nyo for your RRL. It must be recent as possible. Now, if talagang scarce yung RRL or literature, you have to justify why you use yung mga medyo um, matatanda ng references na you will be including in your study. Now, you have to justify kapag mga 2017 below yung mga gagamitin nyo in your study for your literature. Pero again, the desirable is 5 years backward yung inyong materials. So it must be recent as much as possible. And then materials must be objective and unbiased. So you have to present your RRL objectively. It must be relevant to your study, definitely. It must have a bearing, relevant, and support your variables. And it must not be too few or not too many. So there should be enough materials to offer insights on the study. It depends on the school requirements kung ilan yung review of related literature na kailangan, the exact number. Sometimes, a university would require their students to include 20 related literature and 20 related studies. Ganun kadami sometimes. So later sa inyo, I will tell you how many yung kailangan ninyo for the RRL. So those are the characteristics of a good lit review. So these are now the sources of literature and studies. So under literature, ito yung mga ilalagay nyo na materials under literature. Books, professional journal articles, newspapers, magazines, letters, interviews, poems, biographies, etc. So again, those are under literature. Now for studies, we have peer-reviewed research journals. Ito yung mga nada-download nyo online sa mga peer-reviewed e-site, no? Sa mga Scopus. Unpublished thesis and dissertations, probably yung mga makikita nyo nakakompile na sa inyong library, yung mga naka-bookbind. So those are like unpublished thesis or dissertation. Government reports and others. So ito lang yung mga pwede nyo ilagay under the studies. So again, in your case kasi, in your university's format, magkahiwalay si related literature, magkahiwalay si related studies. So you should be able to identify if that material is under literature or studies. Okay, for EAC students, again, you should be able to identify if yung nakuha yung material is a literature or related study. Kasi magkaiba sila ng section in your university format. And then how to write your RRL. So this is how you're going to use or to work on your RRL. First, you have to decide on themes. So thematically, yung pagpe-present nyo ng inyong RRL. So you should know ano ba yung themes na ipe-present, paano nyo ipe-present yung themes ninyo. So yung themes must be congruent with your title or SOP or the variables under investigation. Again, yung themes na mapoproduce mo or yung maka-come up mo na themes should be in line or congruent with the title and your SOP as well. So your themes must be the major variables of your study. And then if you have sub-variables, that may be considered as your sub-themes. Kung meron. Okay, again, major variables will be your major themes or the themes itself, and sub-variables may be considered as your sub-themes. So after you decide on your themes, you read na and evaluate literature and studies that you will be including in your study. And then after that, you write the topic sentence and organize and paraphrase literature and studies. I underline here paraphrase because you do not copy and paste um, literature or related studies. You have to paraphrase yung mga i-include nyo in your um, paper, because again, you will be accused of plagiarism if you will just copy and then paste the work of other people. If you do that, it's like you are owning the idea presented in your paper, which in fact hindi naman talaga galing sa inyo. If you borrowed the ideas or the information, again, you have to paraphrase and then you cite properly. And then next natin, you use transition words. Now, kapag nagsusulat na kayo, you have to make use of different transitional words to make connections between the gathered RRL. So that way, magiging meaningful siya kung marerelate mo yung one literature to another. Okay, relate one idea to another as much as possible. You may take note of the similarities or differences among the gathered materials. Examples of the terms or transitional words are however, likewise, furthermore, moreover, consequently, among many others pa. Okay, so you just use synonyms of those words. And then number 5, you recheck the contents and make adjustments if necessary. Kapag ka nasulat mo na siya, you have to proofread. Tignan nyo kung okay ba yung pagkakasulat nyo. And then if you have seen there's a need to modify, then you adjust accordingly. So this one is a good example of an RRL or Statement of Review of Related Literature. So dito, pinakita yung ating reading starts at a young age through gazing at images. Numerous research findings highlight that browsing images among young learners promote love for reading. And then the authors and then the year published. Yung citation, kumbaga. However, so parang pinapakita yung contrasting ideas here. Si author of this year, halimbawa, De La Cruz 2019, who studied 20 parents and 52 children, conveyed that it is parents' supervision, while children browse that makes a positive difference. And then another transitional word. Moreover, the author, again, another author, and then the year, found that exposures to colorful letters and images further reinforce reading tendencies. Hence, contradicting authors and then year, another author to and then year, claim that plain images already suffice. So in short, in this review of related literature statement, pinapakita yung gawa ng different authors, yung mga different studies relating to one another. So the author is making sense here of the gathered references or materials. And this is how you're going to create your RRL as well. You have to make your gathered materials and references meaningful. You have to relate them as much as possible. Another example, Jose 2007 claims that job-related stress can enhance productivity up to a certain point. There is, however, so another contrasting idea, a threshold point beyond which stress becomes harmful factor in one's productivity. On the other hand, Luisito 2008 averred that In his experience as a clinical psychologist, stresses always produce a negative effect on one's productivity. This one is a bad example. If you will see here, nakalagay, according to author, and then the year, halimbawa, according to um, Paloma 2020, reading starts when children, and then the rest of the statement. Tapos, another author, tapos year ulit, found that colors help in developing the reading tendencies of children. Tapos, furthermore, author, tapos year emphasizes that. Tapos, likewise, authors, year argue on. So, in this example, it is a bad one because no connections between RRL is being emphasized here. So, meron tayong mga terms or transitional words, kaya lang, the relationship between them is not that clear. Okay? And in this way, makikita natin, it's easy to tell that the RRL is just copied and pasted. Ang tawag natin dito is dump or stringing method. And do not copy this style, no? Kasi this is a bad example. And as a panelist, as a critic, madaling makita to. So when you say dump or stringing method, it is a simple presentation or listing of the findings or argumentations of the writers on a particular topic that is devoid of or not reflective of your thinking. Ibig sabihin, nilagay mo lang dyan, nilista mo lang yung mga findings ng different authors, pero you don't relate them with one another. Okay? You don't make those materials meaningful. So again, as much as possible, you may compare and contrast those different ideas that you have gathered in your RL. You may show similarities and differences among those literature. Now, what are the different mistakes to avoid in conducting your RRL? Um, Writing one paragraph per source. This is not good. So again, you have to relate kasi, no? One literature to another. So meaning one paragraph, you must have like more than one author to present differing ideas. Another mistakes to avoid, not analyzing the contents. Copying and pasting of paragraphs, that is not allowed definitely in research. The lack of transition words, inaccurate in-text citations using APA format. So in EAC, we use APA format. 7th edition or 6th edition will do. Anyway, for the 7th edition, may mga several updates lang siya from the previous 6th edition. And we have discussed this already, right? How do you cite or reference using the APA format? So you have to observe the proper way of doing that. And then another mistake to avoid, some authors are not included in the reference list. So in-text at saka yung reference list must be congruent. Kung ano yung nilagay sa in-text citation, it must be reflected in your reference list. And then vice versa. Kung ano yung nasa reference list must be used as your in-text citation. So this one pala may references. My reference here is Jocelyn Gagalang 2021 in her YouTube discussion as well. And now, this is our format, no? Pakita ko lang yung alignment of the title, the SOP, and the RRL. So in this example, the topic is, ito yung ginamit natin kanina, nurses' hardiness and self-esteem, and its relation under positive health practices. So, seeing the title, ito yung pinaka-title niya. You can see here the three main variables of the study, which include hardiness, self-esteem, and positive health practices. So, we have three major variables here. Under the SOP, so this is the aim, and this is the specific questions. There are 5 specific questions here. And the first one, the first specific question is about the hardiness. So it is aligned with the title. Second is about self-esteem. So, meron din siya in the title. Third is positive health practices. Meron din siya in the title. And then fourth is the relationship between hardiness and positive health practices. And then the fifth one is the self-esteem and relationships of positive health practices. So you can see here the congruence between SOP and the title. Okay? So knowing now this one, the title and the SOP, we can arrive in our major themes or for our major themes for our RRL. So definitely kung ito yung mga variables na nakita natin, probably this will also be the major themes for our RRL. So the first major theme for our RRL is hardiness. Second is self-esteem. Third is positive health practices. Fourth is the relation of hardiness, relation between hardiness and positive health practices. And then finally, relation between self-esteem and positive health practices. So, ito yung mga major themes or how you are going to present your RRL as well. It is aligned with your title and SOP. Now, how do you now format your chapter 2? So, lagay dito chapter 2, literature review, tapos a short or an opening statement. How your chapter 2 is structured. And in this case, ito yung example natin. This chapter contains literature and related studies that help the researcher to conceptualize the present study. The chapter is specifically divided into the following sections. First section is review of related literature, which consists of foreign and local literature. Another is review of related studies, consisting of foreign and local studies. And then third is the synthesis section, each of which describes the following major themes or topics. So ito yung mga major themes na in-identify natin kanina na related sa or in line with the SOP and the title. Hardiness, self-esteem, positive health practices, relation between hardiness and positive health practices, and finally, relation between self-esteem and positive health practices. So ito yung ating overview of the chapter 2. And then, the subheading will follow na the review of related literature first, and then under that, yeah, foreign literature, and then your major themes. So parang ganito yung magiging format, the overall content of your chapter 2 based on my example. So ito siya, review of related literature. Under that, you have foreign literature. Tapos you have local literature. Magkaiba yung foreign, magkaiba yung local. Yung foreign, this is an international literature. Yung local, this is localized in our context, which is here in the Philippines. Tapos you can divide that foreign literature into your specific major themes. Ganun din sa local literature, divided into specific major themes. And then, that is literature. Again, pagka literature, we have already discussed kung ano yung mga sources of literature. And then another section is the review of related studies. Again, divided pa siya into foreign, meaning international studies. And then, sorry, ito ay local, no? Local studies. And then, ito yung mga locally here in the Philippines. And divided siya into your major themes of the study. Okay, guys, no? Kung ano yung applicable sa inyo na major themes, yun yung ilalagay. Kung for example, sa foreign literature, meron kang nakita na lahat na major themes na yan for your foreign lit, then ilagay mo lahat. Pero for example, kung sa local literature is scarce lang talaga yung literature, yung some of these major themes can be dropped or can be not included. Okay, kung ano lang yung applicable, kung ano lang yung makita, yun yung ilagay nyo. Pero as much as possible, you have to include all the major themes. Pero again, if talagang scarce yung literature, walang makita, that's the only time na you can drop it. or you cannot include that. Okay? Ganun din sa foreign studies and local studies. So, ano yung requirement natin? Okay, for your requirement class, how many foreign literature, local literature, foreign studies, local studies? So, tig 10. Okay? Again, minimum of 10 foreign literature, minimum of 10 local literature, minimum of foreign studies, and minimum of 10 local studies. 10 foreign studies, 10 local studies. Ibig sabihin, tigda 10 yan. Okay, so 10, 10, 10, 10. So, that is just a minimum. You can exceed up to the maximum is 20. Napakarami na kung 20 for each, no? So, our range lang or just the minimum is 10 for each, pero do not exceed hanggang 20, no? Pwede namang, again, kung scarce talaga, kung for example, sa local literature is hindi umabot sa 10, dagdagan nyo na lang yung foreign literature. Okay? So, for example, 8 lang yung local literature. So, bumawi kayo rito sa foreign literature, gawin nyo siyang 12 to make it 20 sa dalawa na yan. Ganon din dito. Kung for example, si foreign studies ay 5 lang yung nakita mo and marami naman sa local studies. So, gawin mong 15 to, tapos 5 dito. Okay? Pero again, our desired number is 10 for each. So, this is how you structure your RRL. And then, afterwards, thematic yung presentation natin. Ano? You present each section using your major themes. And then finally, the last section of the RRL is synthesis. So for the synthesis, this is where you synthesize all the literature and related studies that you have gathered above. So ito yung sample natin ng ating synthesis. So you have to have a subheading here, synthesis. Overall, all gathered review of the literature and related studies presented above focus on the variables under study, both local and international. In the early days of hardiness, so ayan yung kanyang mga explanation of those major themes. And then, pinaliwanag dito ang significance or relation of those literature to the present study. Again, for the synthesis, you are making meaningful of the gathered data to your present study. Okay, you are rationalizing why your gathered literature and related studies are important in your present study. Okay, so how are you going to use now those related studies and literature in your present study? That should be reflected in your synthesis. So, example, these variables were studied and correlated in different researches and continuously a topic of interest for significance in the field of health and psychology, among others. So, you make meaningful or make connections, no, between the literature that you have gathered above in the synthesis as well. So, it's like summarizing or you are, ito yung ating meaning of synthesis, a discussion that draws on one or more sources, your ability to infer relations among sources. And it refers to bringing together of materials from different sources and the creation of an integrated whole. So that's how you write your synthesis. So again, that is the last section of your RRL wherein you synthesize all the gathered materials from the review of related literature to the review of related studies. So, synthesis yon. And that ends our presentation. That ends on how you're going to write your thesis paper for chapters 1 and 2. So, after watching this video, you may start writing each section of the chapters. And That's it. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me. You can just PM me or direct your message to me via Messenger. So, or via email. Okay, so enjoy writing your research and God bless you. Thank you.